This is the traffic circle at the end of Royal Harbor Boulevard, where it meets Indian Ocean. You can see the cracking, and also might be difficult to see on this video, but its ruts are starting to form here, which is indication of some structural problems with the pavement. Pretty much the entire traffic circle is like this. Here you're starting to see some what they call alligator cracking, which is, rather than longitudinal, horizontal. It's checked sections, and you can see that at least, from my observation, maybe not so much on the camera, but you're starting to get some rutting here, which is indicative of structural damage. When you start getting alligator cracking like this, that's telling you that the base underneath is starting to fail. In this particular situation, the pavement is going to have to be removed with a milling machine and replaced. This is an overlay, won't do here because of the structural damage that you can see where you have the alligator cracking or cross-checking. These are lateral cracks, indicating less in terms of structural damage, but you can see again, you're starting to get some of this cross-checking and alligatoring and so on, same thing. So this area here pretty much needs to be, pavement needs to be removed and milled. It can't be overlaid because of the structural damage, and also the milling needs to take care of the curb reveal so that you have enough depth to replace the pavement. This is at the corner of China Sea and Portsmouth Street. You can see here some evidence of cracking. Here also to the point of underlayment, or the under base material is starting to show through, and you're seeing signs of cross-checking here, which is structural damage. In addition, you see some more cracking here in the street. Now, Portsmouth is in generally not too bad of a condition as far as overall cracking goes, but it's to the point where the surface is starting to oxidate and ravel, which means that you could mitigate further damage to this area by seal coating and seal coating, and then also as you can see here along the edge of the pavement, it's starting to open up, which is a primary area of infiltration. This is Indian Ocean Loop. As you can see here, there's some lateral cracking and some indication of some structural damage starting. Hard to see on the camera, but you can see in person here some waviness and so on. In general, the street is not too bad, but as you go from spot to spot, you can see a significant amount of lateral cracking. I believe there's possibly a few spots here that are going to need some structural repair, but in general, a surface coat of, let's say, microsurfacing or something of that nature would mitigate this damage and keep the street in good condition for a while. This is the beginning of Baltic Sea Boulevard near the traffic circle. This road appears to have been repaired with a larger aggregate, more of a base course mix. You can see here from me rubbing my foot across it that we're experiencing what's called raveling, which is where the asphalt is worn down and the surface underneath is releasing the aggregate, some to the point here of we've got no asphalt at all. We're just showing a limestone base material underneath. Pretty much all of this road from the traffic circle down to the cul-de-sac end of it here is in this kind of condition, more or less. Not a lot of cracking, probably because of the coarse aggregate mix that was used on top to repair it. But nevertheless, it has to be addressed pretty soon. Repairing some of the exposed spots and the thin asphalt spots where you have structural issues, and then perhaps a chip coat or a microsurfacing coat on top of it would get you significantly more life out of this. This is the rotary at the end of the traffic circle on 7 Seas. As you can see here, there's a significant amount of raveling and deterioration. The traffic circles, of course, will be the first ones to show the problem because of the lateral forces exerted by turning, especially with things like garbage trucks and so on and so forth. This area here may sustain a chip seal coat, but it's hard to tell. We'd have to take a closer look at it. Some more indication of raveling here on the same road, and see the aggregates coming loose here around this small cul-de-sac. Again, you see some cracking, some evidence of structural damage starting, and this is the traffic circle at the end of Kingston. You can see here we're getting some cracking developing Here's a spot that had been filled a little bit before that doesn't seem to be doing much. Some more cracking. And here's some alligator cracking, structural problems under that, etc. I will point out that even though the rest of Kingston doesn't appear to be in that bad a condition, that the traffic circle is starting to suffer. You can see here we're also showing signs of raveling where the aggregate is lifting. As a note, even though some of the streets themselves are in very good condition, we probably need to address most of the traffic circles or cul-de-sac type roads in the remediation process. They'll need to more frequency if we want to keep up with them without having to do major repairs. 7 Seas and Royal Harbor Boulevard. It appears that the majority of 7 Seas has had some sort of an overlay put on it in the last several years. But it starts a few hundred feet down. This initial section here is starting to deteriorate, and it's cracking on this section, both in and out sides. Here you see lifting there starting to occur. Okay, and if you follow the street down to past Charleston a little bit, you'll also see the condition doesn't match where they started repairs after that. So this section, it doesn't look too bad structurally, but it's definitely going to need some chip seal or microsurfacing. And then as we come into Royal Harbor Boulevard here from the traffic circle going up to the lighthouse, you can see this area here, alligator cracking. This has some, again, some structural damage, but it's not typical of this road in general. But there are a few places that does have some structural damage on it, but in general you can see here it is starting to open up. Cracks here, up here, more, and in general you can see a number of them leading, up to the lighthouse. And also, judging from the color of it, the whiteness of it, it's a sign of oxidation. So it's going to continue unless it's addressed. This area could probably best be served by microsurfacing. And since this is a heavily traveled road for the most part, I would recommend a 2-coat process, which will serve us better in the long run. This is an example of structural failure of the asphalt on Royal Harbor Boulevard. This is about a third of the way from the traffic circle up to the lighthouse. Areas like this, the pavement will need to be completely removed and replaced before doing any kind of sealing process or microsurfacing or chip sealing. And this again is characterized by the alligator pattern, and also you can see on personal inspection that it's rotting. The base is being destroyed. So this sections like this, and there are a few of them here, I won't cover all of them, will need to be preferably cut out, milled out, refilled with asphalt pavement, and then after that the entire road microsurface. The traffic circle around the lighthouse is in generally fair condition, but in order to preserve the integrity of it, I would do some sealing around the edges, especially since this is a high traffic area and prone to problems. There are also a few problem areas which I'll drive to and show you. This is the approach area here, and there's a good amount of cracking on this side. That's on the downside heading towards the lower traffic circle. And in addition, there is some here, the entrance and around the here also at the top of Royal Harbor Boulevard, you see some cracking and the beginning of some alligatoring here. Again, this pavement does not look too bad in general from a cracking perspective, but we are starting to see some fine line cracking, and the color of it is kind of showing oxidation. This is not as bad as the lower section. It may have been redone more recently because of the amount of traffic that it gets. In any event, this may benefit from some type of seal coating, not necessarily using microsurfacing or chip seal, just to mitigate some of the oxidation and cracking that's happening now. This is the corner of Freeport and Antigua. This road has cracking, oxidation occurring, settling in some spots. They're going to need to be reconstructed. The cul-de-sac has been refinished. This is a section of Freeport. In general, the street is not too bad, but there are signs of deterioration and areas needing repairs on quite a few portions of the street. Maybe not one of the priority areas, but an area that's showing significant deterioration is the Bahamas Circle area. Again, you can see here structural damage, settling, alligator cracking, which is again is an indication of that. Quite a bit here, quite a bit of cracking. Again, cul-de-sacs are going to be, and circles, going to be more susceptible because of the lateral movement. Again, here we've got some alligator cracking, developing structural damage here. Quite a bit of it here. May get away with some intermittent repairs and microsurfacing, but in lieu of the number of spots that look like they're going to need some repairs, might have to just mill it and overlay it. The circle of Sailboat Avenue coming off Armada has a significant amount of pavement deterioration. and areas that are starting to indicate structural damage. Although most of the surface does seem fairly level. This is kind of a question mark of whether we could get away with some sort of chip sealing without and just doing some periodic repairs, but there's quite a few areas that look like this, and you can see with the settling and the alligatoring, it means that the surface underneath is deteriorating and the asphalt lifting up. Areas like this, you need to remove the asphalt. You can't overlay them, and there's quite a few of them. So this road perhaps would need milling and paving overlay. I don't know, maybe we get another opinion, might be able to do it cheaper, but it doesn't look like it to me. Armada heading down towards the lake from the traffic circle in front of the community center. This road is kind of a mishmash of different things. It's exhibiting some cracking periodically from place to place, some more severe than others. A number of spots are starting to reveal raveling, so it's kind of a combination and a mishmash of different things happening here from the top of the road down to the bottom. Also, it's starting to, show signs of pretty good oxidation in spots. This road structurally looks pretty good. I didn't see any structural damage, but definitely needs to be addressed to keep the keep this going, because it's starting in the to fail. Now getting to the lower end of Armada, actually are seeing some signs of structural failure here. This is due to the fact that there's probably significantly more traffic coming down this end, because a lot of people here are using the second entrance to get into Royal Harbor. But you can see here in this spot is starting to have failure. This is going to need to dug up and have pavement replaced over here, and if memory serves me correctly, there's a few more spots going down this street. Continuing down Armada, it actually is getting progressively worse. Here's an area here that within a short matter of time will be completely destroyed. You can see pothole developing there, several there. There's more. This won't take this too much longer to go bad, but this portion of Armada, as you get down towards the lake road and the houses on the lake, is pretty bad. Saratoga Drive between Sailboat, good amount of moderate cracking, a little bit of alligatoring in some spots, general deterioration is indicating in need again of probably a micro surfacing or something of that nature. I won't cover the whole road, but most of it is starting to show signs of failure. Sailboat Avenue heading up from the lake towards Armada. Again, signs of oxidation, cracking and checking. More or less severe in different parts of the road, but in general, overall, the entire road is starting to show the stresses, and the cracks are starting to develop. This road needs to be also addressed. Flagship, again, cracking, some of this developing into soon to be alligator cracks. over there, a bunch of linear cracks, more linear cracks, and some evidence of alligator cracking. Pretty much consistent with the rest of the road. Dory and Flagship, cracking, developing, a little bit of settling. And here, a lot of fine line cracks starting to develop at the intersection. Some alligatoring starting over there. Continuing on Dory, we see similar, quite a bit of development of cracking, settling in some spots. It seems to be consistent with most of the roads. Upper end of Sailboat near Armada, more cracking in the road. Also some evidence of a little bit of raveling is starting to occur, and oxidation, of course. Clipper Way, short street here, entering, raveling starting, cracks, good degree of oxidation. This area here, either side of the island, quite a bit of cracking evidence. We're starting to get some alligator in here, which means we'll start getting potholes pretty soon, structural damage underneath. You can see there's both sides of the road, and I won't walk to the end, but it's similar to the end. This area, this particular area, does need attention pretty soon. It's a fairly high traffic area, especially with starting and stopping and so on. So here. Intersection of Clipper and Bounty. This section is in pretty bad shape. Needs attention fairly soon. Already starting to have some lifting, potholes develop, structural damage here, here. If you look down Bounty, it's been capped 100 feet or so down there, and this section, though, nothing has been done to it. Upper section also, you can see from the oxidation, and here's another spot here. Complete destruction here. Very bad section over here. I'll take a ride around and look at the rest of it, but this definitely needs attention very soon. This is near the corner of Bounty and Lake Huron. Now, this area had been resurfaced recently. I don't know when, but in general, you can tell the more black it is, the newer it is, because of the oxidation. It takes the color out of it over time. But a couple of things I wanted to point out here is that even though this hasn't been done that long ago, we're starting to see some cracking here and in this area. And I've noticed it in a few spots on a few of the roads that have been resurfaced here. I've also noticed that they didn't do a particularly good job with raising and leveling the manhole covers on a lot of these roads that have been redone. That's the sign of a good paving contractor or a not so good one, but there's a lot of that. So one of the things that I did notice, I didn't notice them paving this road in particular, but on a lot of the roads that we did, that when they did a a pavement overlay, they did not use a tack coat on the overlay. And in my opinion, that's kind of a big no-no. It's very necessary to get proper adhesion to use a tack coat. I mean, you can do it without it, but this is what happens after a few years if you don't. So just a note aside, if we're going to be doing some pavement overlays, we definitely need to specify a tack coat. Some more areas on Bounty where relatively new pavement overlays are cracking. Again, I mentioned tack coat, not necessarily an indication of not putting the tack coat there. It could be. It also could be just an indication of improper milling of the subsurface before you put the top coat on. And that the structural problems would just rise to the surface if you didn't eliminate them before you paved it. More cracking again on Bounty. Relatively good pavement, but poorly installed. Bounty going uphill from the lake. Relatively good condition as far as oxidation and cracking problems. However, there seems to be quite a bit of raveling developed in the surface here, and the aggregate is starting to loosen up. We could mitigate that with a seal coat. Lake Huron between the Bounty Circle streets. This street looks as if it has been, more recently had a thin overlay applied to it. But again, there are parts of it that are cracking fairly substantially, where other parts look really good, just like the rest of the Bounty that had been redone recently. Again, an indication of poor installation. Unfortunately, in these situations, it's kind of tough because you just have to address the different patches of it, and some of it has been done already, but there's still some more to be done. There's not really a good solution here other than having better specs and quality control on the job in the first place. Keel Court recently done with an overlay. Looking at some of these overlays that I've done with a coarse aggregate, a lot of them that have been done with a coarse aggregate rather than a fine aggregate top layer seem to be exhibiting a lot of raveling, like this road is here. Structurally in pretty good condition, but definitely needs to have a seal coat put on it or a microsurface to get the most cost effectiveness out of the long run. Sea Leopard, same thing, structurally pretty good condition. Surface deterioration and raveling starting to occur, should be seal coated. This is the top portion of Bounty here, leading back to Royal Harbor Boulevard. Significant amount of oxidation, some cracking developing in places. Again, this also needs attention, seal coating, microsurfacing. This is Tropical Seas and Royal Harbor Boulevard. This area was done recently with a coarse aggregate overlay. It's developed significant cracking already. Some of them widening up considerably. In my recollection, when I saw them do this, they didn't really do any remediation to the surface before they did it, and consequently you can see the results of not doing that, and how maybe saving money at the time got you with a very short-term fix. And one of the problems with this now is that its ability to put a surface overlay on this, like microsurfacing or some sort of a thin chip keel coating, is that we already are extending up and over the curb, and if we put a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch material on there, it's not going to help this any and not seal very well. So in the short term, when you put this type of material on, it'll make it look good for a while, but it really isn't good. And then now, in addition to the cost of doing a short-term repair, you're going to add to the cost of having to mill this off there and remove it, and then do it the right way. So, you know, this type of thing can kind of be a learning experience of how not to do it. And I'll give you an example over here. I think they just cut this in a little bit when they joined it with the road, although not much. There seems to be a little lip here. But you can see that the road underneath is cracked. And when they put the pavement overlay here, within a short period of time, that crack, which was underneath it, just found its way into the pavement you put on top of it. So this is why you just can't throw stuff on top of stuff that's already deteriorated. This crack has to be mitigated in some way. If it's a non-destructive crack, as I said, you can use some type of a sealer, thin overlay, like a microsurface mix or something like that, and then at that point it'll mitigate that. But here again, what you got is a short-term fix, and pretty much I would bet pretty much all of these cracks here are probably just following that same pattern as that crack underneath was, and consequently you got a very short-term repair, and now the added cost of having to remove this because of the height that you've added to it, and so now we'll have to be milled down, which is rather expensive, and then pavement overlay will have to be put on it. So it's really important that you address these things properly, otherwise your cost will add up significantly. Obviously this is just a small section of road here, but multiply that times the number of roads, and if you make this similar mistake, the cost of mitigating the damage done and doing it the right way would get terribly, terribly expensive. As we continue on Tropical Seas Loop, you can see cracking, some settling starting to occur in places. The general condition of this road is similar to that, and I'll proceed down a little farther just to confirm that. Tropical Seas is somewhat of a mishmash. Where you enter from Royal Harbor Boulevard, of course, because of the heavy traffic, quite a bit of cracking there. Some of it looks good. I'd say 60% of the street doesn't look too bad, although it's showing signs of heavy oxidation. Here's some spots where we're seeing cracking and raveling. Continue up here, and we see you know, some complete deterioration here, lots of raveling. You can follow it right on up to the intersection. The street needs repairs. and not too much in the way of structural, but it needs some structural repairs, and then chip seal or microsurface. This is Gulfstream. As you can see here, good amount of oxidation on the entire street. Cracking starting generally in most of the street. Some areas more than others, like here, for example. A few other spots like this. Manhole cover here is has settled, pavement settling around it. Cape Horn Court looks fairly recent. I don't know the history on when this was done, but it was an overlay done here without any surface preparation. And again, you can see that this is a relatively short-term fix that creates an additional problem of having to remove what you put on top, because what's underneath it is not stable. You can see here there's a significant amount of cracking coming up from the subsurface in a not too long a period of time. You know, again, since we've overlaid it, come up to the level of the curb, it's problematic in dealing with it. You know, here you can see it's starting to come up, starting to ravel here. Significant amount of raveling here. Not necessarily related to the cracks underneath the raveling, but I don't know what they put down here, but it doesn't look like a very good quality pavement. Looking at the way it's deteriorating already. The rest of the short street here does have cracking, high oxidation, needs seal coating. It's a Mediterranean loop at the entrance to Royal Harbor Boulevard. This was done not too long ago, my recollection, maybe a couple of years or a year or two, because I live on this street. In general, you can see the pavement is in fairly good condition, and it looks like they use a good quality fine aggregate top coat as well, but you can see there's a number of cracks developing here, and you know, in a short period of time, of course, the intersections are going to be subject to more abuse. Here's some more of the entrance to the area from Royal Harbor Boulevard. You can see some pretty good sized cracking again out on Royal Harbor Boulevard, here. So all of this needs to be taken care of. But if I recall when they did this, I don't recall them putting a tack coat on this, and again, you know, it's hard to tell without doing real scientific analysis, even if you could do it then, but yeah, certainly the adhesion and the expansion of the two different materials is significantly aided by that, and I don't think they did that here, and that might be why you got cracking. As we go down Royal Harbor Boulevard, from Royal Harbor Boulevard into Mediterranean, you can see that there's a significant amount of cracking here. Here we're starting to get some alligatoring. Same thing here. This is starting. You start seeing some structural damage going to develop here. Here's a spot here. You follow it down. You know, a number of places. There has been some patching done here in various spots or whatever, but in general, this street does need at the very least a few spot repairs where you have structural damage, and possibly a microsurface coating. Mediterranean loop in general, fair amount of deterioration both in raveling, cracking, and oxidation. Here's a section here where you see complete sections of pavement gone. This spot as well. And continuing up the road, there's several spots like this that are starting to ravel and crack. They did, I think 2 or 3 years ago, take this little cul-de-sac area here and put some pavement on here. This area was subject to a lot of wear. A lot of trucks tend to turn around in here, and that's what happens. There's some more here. Cracking here. Raveling and cracking here. Makeshift patch. and so on. It continues similarly. This street needs some structural repairs and microsurfacing.